It's been a long time since I walked in the moonlight. This is Franz Kafka, as you know, the favorite of many. It's a short story called Jackals and Arabs. We were encamped in the oasis. My companions were asleep. An Arab, a tall figure in white, strode past. He had been seeing to the camels and was going to his sleeping place. I flung myself on my back in the grass. I wanted to sleep. I could not. The wailing howl of a jackal in the distance. I sat up again. And what had been so far off was suddenly close at hand. A seething mass of jackals around me, dull golden eyes gleaming out and fading away, lean bodies in orderly and nimble motion, as if controlled by a whip. One came up from behind me, pushed through under my arm, pressing against me as if he needed my warmth. Then he stepped almost eye to eye in front of me and spoke. "I am the oldest jackal far and wide. I am glad I'm still able to welcome you here. I'd almost given up hope, for we'd been awaiting you for countless ages. My mother waited, and her mother, and every mother as far back as the first mother of all the jackals. Believe me." "I am surprised," I said, forgetting to light the pile of firewood lying ready to keep the jackals off with its smoke. "I'm very much surprised to hear it. I've only come down from the far north by chance, and I'm making a short journey. What is it that you want then, jackals?" And as if these words, perhaps all too friendly, had given them courage, they drew their circle closer round me. They were all breathing fast with a snarl in their throats. "We are aware," began the eldest, "that you come from the north. That is just what we build our hopes on. People up there understand things that aren't understood by the Arabs down here. From their cold arrogance, I can tell you, no spark of understanding can be struck. They kill animals in order to eat them, and carry on flesh they despise." "Don't talk so loud," said I. "There are Arabs sleeping near." "You really must be a stranger here," said the jackal, "or you'd know that never, in all history, has a jackal been afraid of an Arab. Why do you think we should be afraid of them? It is not misfortune enough to be banished among such creatures." Perhaps, said I. "I don't presume to judge things so remote from my concerns. It seems to be almost an ancient feud, so it probably runs in the blood. So maybe blood will be needed to end it." "You are very wise," said the old jackal. And they all breathed even faster, their lungs straining. Although they were standing still, a sour smell came from their gaping mouths, which at times I had to grit my teeth to bear. "You are very wise. What you say accords with our ancient teachings. So what we shall do is take their blood, and their feud is ended." "Oh," I exclaimed, more vehemently than I meant to. "They'll defend themselves. They'll shoot you down in packs with their muskets." "You misunderstand us," said he. "After human fashion, which seems to persist in the far north as well. Killing them is not at all what we have in mind. All the waters of the Nile would never suffice to wash us clean. The mere sight of their living flesh is enough to send us running off, out into a purer air, out into the desert which is therefore our homes." And all the jackals standing round me, their number now increased by many others come up from afar, lowered their heads between their four legs, and polished them with their paws. It was as if they were trying to conceal their revulsion, a revulsion so terrible it made me want to leap clean out of their circle. "What do you propose to do then?" I asked, trying to get to my feet, but I was unable to do so. Two young beasts behind me had fastened their teeth in my coat and my shirt. I had to remain seated. "They are carrying your train," explained the old jackal gravely. "It's a token of respect." "They must let me go," I cried, turning now to the old jackal, now to the youngsters. "Of course they will," said the old one, "if you so wish. But it will take a little time, because a custom requires they have bitten in deep, and first they must gradually loosen their jaws. Meanwhile, pray hear what we ask." "Your behavior hasn't put me in a very receptive frame of mind," I said. "Don't hold our clumsiness against us," he said. And now he began to make use of his natural wailing tone. "We are only poor creatures. We have nothing but our teeth. We depend for all that we want to do, the good and the bad, and our teeth alone." "What is it that you want then?" I said, only slightly appeased. "Master!" he cried, and every jackal set up a howl. The howling from their furthest distance seemed to reach my ears like a melody. "Master, you are to end the strife that is dividing the world. You are exactly the man our ancients described as the one to accomplish it. We must be granted peace from the Arabs, air that we can breathe, the whole round of the horizon purified of their presence. Never again the piteous cry of a sheep slaughtered with an Arab knife. Every manner of beast must die in peace. We must be left undisturbed, to drink them empty and cleanse them to the bone. Purity, purity is our sole desire." And now all of them were crying and sobbing. "How can you endure it in this world, you noble heart and sweet entrails? Filth is their white, filth is their black, a thing of loathing is their beard. The corner of their eye is enough to make you spit, and when they lift an arm, all hell gapes in their armpit. Therefore, O Master, therefore, beloved Master, with the help of your all-powerful hands, with the help of your all-powerful hands, take up these scissors and cut their throats." And in obedience to a jerk of his head, a jackal came trotting up, from one of whose corner teeth there dangled a small pair of sewing scissors, covered in ancient rust. "Right, so we've come to the scissors at last. And that's enough of it," cried the Arab leader of our caravan, who had been creeping up to us against the wind and now cracked his gigantic whip. All the jackals ran off in haste, but some distance off they stopped, cowering close together. The many beasts so stiff and tight-packed that it looked like a narrow hurdle, wreathed in flickering willowed wisps. "And so, Master, now you, too, have seen and heard this spectacle," said the Arab, laughing as heartily as the reserve of his race allowed. "So you know what the creatures are after?" I asked. "Of course, Master," he said. "That's common knowledge. For so long as there have been Arabs, these scissors have wandered the desert, and they will go on wandering with us until the end of time. Every European is offered the scissors to perform the great work. They imagine that every European is the very one called to perform it. They have an insane hope, these animals. They are fools, veritable fools, and we love them for it. They are our dogs, more beautiful ones than yours are. Now look, a camel has died in the night. I have brought it along." 4 bears arrived and threw the heavy carcass down in front of us. Hardly had it touched the ground when the jackals raised their voices. As if they were drawn, each one on a cord, irresistibly, they came hesitatingly forward, their bellies to the ground. They had forgotten the Arabs, forgotten their hatred. All else was obliterated by the presence of the reeking carcass that held them in its spell. One jackal was already hanging at the camel's throat, and his first bite found the artery. Each muscle of his body twitched and jerked in its place, like a frenzied little pump that is utterly and hopelessly committed to the quenching of a raging fire. And by now, they all lay piled up high on the carcass, each one laboring away. Then out lashed the leader with his biting whip, fiercely to and fro across their backs. They raised their heads, still half numb in their ecstasy and stupor, saw the Arabs standing before them. Now they were made to feel the whip on their muzzles. They sprang back and retreated a little, but already the blood of the camel was lying in pools. Steaming high, in many places its body was torn wide open. They could not resist. Back they came once more. Once more the leader raised his whip. I caught hold of his arm. "You are right, Master," he said. "We will leave them to their task. Besides, it's time to break camp. Now you have seen them. Wonderful creatures, aren't they? And how they do hate us." Hate.
I'm alive.